Helvete is a LARP that explores the early Scandinavian black metal scene back in the early 90s or so. Specifically, the circle that grew up around Oslo, this kind of underground circle, mostly of disaffected teenagers and early 20-somethings who were seeking, kind of like banded together in an attempt to sort of create their own music and really, and in a way that got increasingly extreme, increasingly antisocial, and resulted in committing a fair number of heinous crimes, up to and including murder. And the LARP is about that scene in terms of exploring kind of the dynamics that led what was fundamentally a bunch of kind of geeky kids, for the most part, to go down this path. Kind of the forces of bizarre interactions of toxic masculinity and sort of camaraderie that led them there. There's a book out there, I believe it's The Cult Never Dies by Dale Patterson, which consists of primarily of a series of interviews that the guy did with various artists from the scene, both early and spanning pretty much the entire history of black metal. And a lot of it focuses on this Norwegian scene, since that was really kind of the heart of what really sparked black metal as a movement that we recognize today.
One of the things that we really saw when we were reading through this book and looking at the scene was the amount of toxic masculinity in this scene. It is very much focused on that kind of like aggression and pushing away any emotions that are not like that kind of anger and aggression. It's very much focused on violence. It's in the ethos and the lyrics and things like that. So we felt that this was a really interesting, because it was Make a Scene had this gender focus this year. We thought that this would be a really cool place to bring a game about that at its core and at its heart, even though it's about this scene that we both really care about, is also an exploration of what toxic masculinity can do when it's really, really ramped up, and when people are pushing that on each other over and over again, and kind of egging each other on into greater heights. This is also a really kind of dark game. I mean, it involves, like, at the end of the game, it's not a spoiler, but at the end of the game, someone will kill the leader of the record studio, the head of it, and it will happen. And so it involves a lot of really pretty dark topics. And we thought that Make a Scene had kind of from what I had seen about it, and I know quite a few people on the Make a Scene, I know that they had a culture of safe play, and a culture of being willing to explore some really heavier topics and in a responsible fashion. So I thought that this would be the kind of community that could take a game like this and run with it in a way that everyone could enjoy it, but it also would be a safe place to explore this kind of stuff. One, you get to like really dive into being kind of an artist, which is really actually fun, and create bands and like have all this fun play of like that kind of play. But you also get to be really, you can be pretty aggressive in this game.
Yeah, and a lot of LARPs out there don't really mess around with aggression or anything where people are being kind of like harsh, or I can't think of a better word than aggressive towards each other. You know, there's not usually a lot of room for that. And so this is one of the few games I can think of that actually does that kind of play.
And it actually has like workshops and discussions about how to do that kind of play. So I think that people found that really fun to let that out and just go. But then also there's the debrief afterwards, in which you have this thought and you kind of come out and play this kind of aggression and toxic masculinity, but then you pull back and you get to reflect on it and think about what you actually did in the game. And I think that kind of juxtaposition actually it's a really fun game to play, but then there's a lot of thought afterwards and reflection, which is, it's fun in its own way. It's got all this stuff around it, but it's a really like legitimate, we hope you take a chance on it and expand your musical horizons a little bit into the world of black metal.
Growling's scary, but you can deal, I swear.